The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Woo! Yeah! Oh my goodness, it's Tuesday, but it feels like a Monday. But nonetheless, it's Reese on the radio, and we are back on WTIC News Talk 1080. Holla, holla, pop your collar. It is a pleasure to be back here. I missed you guys this weekend. It was so slow, and I had to pack, which I am not a fan of. Owning a moving company for 5 years has not made me like packing more. I can pack up other people's stuff. I put all their stuff in boxes, put them on a truck, drive them someplace, and unload them. I can do that. I did it for 5 years. But my own stuff, I hate it. Why? Here's why. The wife who celebrates a birthday today, happy birthday, has too much damn stuff. The woman has way too much stuff. Too much stuff. When we first got together, our first move, it took me 3 days to move her out of a 2-bedroom apartment. 3 days. We also have to factor in that she was on the 3rd floor of a walk-up. That was a lot. And she had 17 years worth of stuff in her apartment. Okay? We're talking stuff that she had 17 years prior. This time around, she's actually doing the thing that I didn't think that she would do, and that is she's getting rid of the boys' 5th grade textbooks. Yes! Yay! Yay! All of his artwork out the door. Old dressers that he doesn't use anymore, gone. Gone. Sitting curbside. To get this woman to let that stuff go now that he's 18 years old and doesn't want to be seen near his parents, she is finally, and I thought it was going to be really tough. I thought she was going to have to keep those things around so she can sniff them. I remember when he was just a boy. But now she's getting rid of stuff. It's amazing. Things she's getting rid of. Hold on, ladies. The ladies are going to understand this. Just yesterday, she gave shoes to Goodwill. I'm not going to lie. Let me tell you how impressed I was by this. I saw the shoes that she gave to Goodwill. We're talking like no exchange, like gave to someone in need. I looked at them as I handed them over to the man at Goodwill, and I stopped and looked at the shoes and went, are you sure these? Like these shoes? I know nothing about shoes, but when I looked at them, I went, are you sure? And she goes, no, God, that's okay. I know nothing about it, but I was like, what? Yeah. She gave them shoes, clothing, jackets, things just 3 years ago I couldn't get her to get rid of, she is now getting rid of. She is downsizing in a way that I cannot understand. I'm supposed to be happy about this, but even I'm confused. It's a birthday miracle. It just is. It's just a miracle. Okay, enough about me. It is her birthday, which I can make all about me any day. Folks, it's a pleasure to be back, and we've got a lot of stuff to get into. And over the past weekend, we have received some very, very daunting news. And the daunting news is that certain individuals who are screaming and hollering and losing their collective minds about immigration don't even care about who's being removed from the country. They don't. They don't care about who's being removed. They don't want anyone moved. They want them here to stay. Now, I get a lot of props for my research, but you know what you guys never give me props for? My investigative journalism. I'm kind of a numbers guy. I like to investigate numbers, people, populations. Those things matter. And I started noticing something that was really weird, and I figured I'd go back to an old trope here on this show. Back when I used to poke fun at the Black Lives Matter 860 movement, as well as the NAACP of Greater Hartford and Connecticut. I used to talk a good game about how those individuals lived and breathed off of racial injustice in the state of Connecticut. And then miraculously, it all went away. As I told you, with the exception of the fact that we're trying to get a videotape of the death of J. Allen Jones, we have had over 495 days racial-free. Racial-free here in the state of Connecticut. Not an incident. No nooses, no scrawlings, nothing. And I'm proud to say that I'm the person who started that. An end to racial segregation or disparities or racial, whatever. I got rid of all that. Single-handedly, this guy. So I started looking over the numbers. And something just didn't make sense. Why are all of these politicians screaming and hollering about immigration in the state? Now, you guys know what the answer is. You guys say, yes, because of illegal voting, Reese. Yes, okay, that's without a doubt. Yeah, okay, you got me. You win. But I want you to look about this in a nuanced way. I started checking numbers. I want to start with blacks. 18 and up in the state of Connecticut. The amount of African Americans in the state of Connecticut, in a state that has 3.7 million people. 3,700,000. African Americans 18 and up, that is voting age, in the state of Connecticut, that number, according to the census, is 298,000 people. Overall, in the state of Connecticut, the number of African Americans or blacks is 384,753. Again, 18 and up, 298,500 to be exact. Total number, 384,753. In a population of 3.7 million. The Hispanic Latino population, 18 and up, is 479,000. Total number, 684,000. Both of those numbers were given by the Census Bureau in the state of Connecticut, for the state of Connecticut. Both of those numbers had zeros behind them. Some went off the beaten path, but these numbers were thousands, 000 at the end. African Americans, they brought it down to 500, and in fact, total number 384,753. I don't want to confuse you, but this is important. Listen closely. 684,000 Hispanic Latinos, 384,753 blacks. 18 and up for Hispanic Latinos, 479,000. 18 and up for blacks, 298,500. We are talking about a difference between 18 and up of 182,000, 83,000 between the two, 18 and up. That's a large number. That is a very large number. Now I want to go one step further. Let's talk about population growth. From 2010 to 2020, Hispanic and Latino increase went from 479,000 to 623,000, a growth rate of 30.1%, or about 2.7% of compounded annually. Again, they went from 10 years, 2010 to 2020, 479,087 to 623,293. Black or African American alone, including Hispanic Black, they increased from 362,296 to 388,000, an annual increase of 7.3%, or about 0.7 compounded annually. That's it. In 10 years. Now in census growth from 2020 to 2023. Hispanic Latinos increased from 623,000 to 641,000 in 3 years. 623 to 641. African Americans or blacks decreased in 3 years from 361,000 to 355,000. A growth rate of minus 1.7. Does that sound weird to you? That the population in Connecticut for African Americans in a 3-year span decreased from 2020 to 2023, while the numbers for Hispanic Latinos grew? And now you've got everyone jumping out a window to protect those who were in the country illegally? Screaming Nazi Germany, talking about how the National Guard may affect polling places come midterm elections. Last week, I played for you Gavin Newsom.
In L.A., do you think ICE is not going to show up around voting and polling booths to chill participation? You know that. The National Guard, you know that. Everybody knows what's at stake, so we have to put a stake in the ground and do things differently.
If you thought that was odd, look no further than Chicago. The sentiment is growing.
This is a part of his plan to do something really nefarious, which is to interfere with elections in 2026. He wants to have troops on the ground to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going to the voting booth. So take note. That is what this is all about.
That's what this is all about. Isn't it, John Larson?
This is not Germany. That's the SS and the Gestapo. This is the United States of America. Unmask yourselves.
We haven't seen John Larson screaming and hollering about anything all year. Well, maybe at the beginning of the year, he was screaming and hollering, saying that there was no fraud in Social Security. But, whatever. You haven't heard anything from him since, have you? This one's a new one. Look, the Democrat Party invests in nothing where they don't get something from. There's no reason for them to put that much political capital into illegals in the country. It makes no sense for them to jump out a window to protect the likes of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It makes no sense for them to jump out a window to protect the Newington 7 after we receive info that these individuals were arrested for stealing Social Security numbers, identity theft. That these people were wanted criminals. No one's running around apologizing for screaming and hollering at ICE. No one is apologizing for accusing ICE of showing up at the Optimo car wash with masks on after now we've seen photographs of ICE agents without masks on. No one is apologizing, but they are jumping out of a window to protect what? And everybody is standing around going, wait a minute, Democrats are actually siding with criminals? People who are accused of attacking children? That's who they're throwing all of their political weight behind? It doesn't make sense. And again, people just think that, oh, it just seems odd. Maybe it's just stupid. Maybe it's just because they don't like Trump. No. Because there is something to gain from it. And it looks like Pritzker and Newsom have now let the cat out of the bag. People are actually saying that the armed National Guard outside of a polling place will intimidate legal voters when they go to polling places because they believe that the National Guard will pull them off the line if they suspect they are illegal because of the color of their skin. While others believe that an armed National Guard outside of polling places would ensure that cheaters do not get in, that cheaters do not get online. That's what's at stake. And that's what they're willing to risk. When we come back, a new element has arrived with the Democrat Party. This one doesn't make any sense to me, but it screams of Elian Gonzalez back in 1999. We'll tap into that in a little bit when we return. Go nowhere. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Fan of WTIC? Then do us a favor. Download the free Odyssey app and favorite WTIC.
Hey now, we're back. It's Reese on the radio, WTIC News Talk 1080. Detroit Chuck is in the chat room. I hope, are you calling from Detroit or checking out from Detroit? Chuck, if you are, welcome. I've been noticing that the show online has been expanding to a lot of areas. In fact, I have to give a shout out today to Saugerties, New York, population 19,038 for checking out the show. Never heard of that town. Saugerties is just outside of Connecticut, just west of Connecticut, a couple of miles. So I thought that was a town I'd never heard of, but they're checking out the show. If you're just joining us, we were talking about Democrats who have been throwing their weight behind this immigration issue. And what Gavin Newsom and now Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois is saying about the National Guard, saying that, you know, at first it was a distraction about the Epstein files. Now it's about something entirely different. And Gavin, who said last week this.
In L.A., do you think ICE is not going to show up around voting and polling booths to chill participation? You know that. The National Guard, you know that. Everybody knows what's at stake, so we have to put a stake in the ground and do things differently.
So with that, J.B. Pritzker saying that the National Guard is doing the same thing, or Donald Trump's intent to use the National Guard, this is what he says.
This is a part of his plan to do something really nefarious, which is to interfere with elections in 2026. He wants to have troops on the ground to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going to the voting booth.
Which I find very odd, because it was former Attorney General Eric Holder who found no reason to charge two members of the new Black Panther Party. I interviewed its leader a couple of years back. To not charge the new Black Panther Party in Philadelphia for standing outside of a polling place threatening white folks that if they did not vote for Barack Obama, there'd be consequences and repercussions. No one saw fit to do that. Now they're saying the National Guard is being used. Chuck from the airport. I'm sorry. Thank you. Chuck was with me on the flight from hell where we flew over Bradley and then had to go all the way back to Detroit. Welcome, Chuck. Chuck is actually from the Connecticut area. He's calling himself Detroit Chuck because that's where I met him. Thank you for joining the show again, Chuck. I appreciate you. But the new thing that Democrats are doing, this one's crazy. And I don't get it. My wife's come up with a bunch of theories. I've heard some other people with some very weird and daunting theories. I know what a lot of you are going to say. You're going to start screaming the P word. I know. But I want you to think critically about this. The new deal is that there were some kids that were being flown back to Guatemala to be with their parents. And judges and lawyers and activists got wind of it. And they put a stop to the plane on the tarmac. Hold up. Do not let those children fly back to their parents in Guatemala. We must keep them here and make sure these children have due process. The kids didn't do anything wrong. They were unaccompanied minors. In fact, these children were found because many of them were missing. You know, the Biden administration just pretty much let kids just disappear in the hundreds of thousands. Do you know there were more kids missing? There were more illegal children missing under the Biden administration than there are African Americans in the state of Connecticut? Some 500,000. And these children were found. The government of Guatemala said, no, bring us our children. The parents said, hey, where are my kids? Hey, we got them. Hey, bring them back. And Americans are saying, not so fast. These kids have to be vetted before they go back to their parents. I want you to listen to an exchange on CNN. This actually happened. People from the New York Times were on this panel. Joe Biden campaign operatives were on this panel. They'll be the women who you'll hear on this panel, battling with Scott Jennings of CNN about these children going back home to their parents and their country of origin that wants them there.
These children were abandoned here somehow. They've been, sent here for some period of time. They're trying to reunite them with their families where they're from, with a government that has asked for their return and wants to facilitate their return. This all happened under the Biden administration. Now a Biden judge is trying to keep them here and to further this policy of keeping them separated from the families that they have in Guatemala. Everybody's upset about this, and I don't know why. They're trying to reunite them with their families.
Again, and this is the thing. I cannot understand why it is that there are so many people who are confused and what Democrats are doing. Like, what are you confused about? There's nothing to be confused about. These are Democrats. This has nothing to do with common sense. Those children must stay. I know a lot of you are going to come up with your own little weird and nasty ideas as to why. But I want you to think critically. Don't go for the low-hanging fruit. Think critically. Why do you think they want them to stay? Well, here's the reaction from the panel. Again, all women, with the exception of one, I think Jeff Goldberg or some guy is on there, but he's barely talking. He's scared to death to get involved in this conversation. If he can't criticize Donald Trump, he's just going to stay out of it. But listen to these women go back and forth.
Are you comfortable with how it was done, right? I understand you're taking the administration's line on this, but woken up in the middle of the night over a holiday weekend, not having a chance to go before a judge to contest this or...
The kids didn't get an opportunity to contest them going back to mom and dad in Guatemala.
Explain why they want to go back to Guatemala or anything like that, and put aboard these planes, and then, then the lawyers step in, a judge steps in, and here we are.
My general view is that their families in Guatemala and the Guatemalan government want them back, we should send them back.
But then why not do it during business hours?
Yeah, Labor Day weekend.
Why in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning?
Yeah,
well,
it sure does. Seems a little fishy to me.
You don't think
it's just a weird
keep
time
them separated
to do
from their families?
No, I think children. I think Lulu's exactly right. There is a due process system in place in our government.
We're not saying they're criminals.
And
we're just
children
saying they should go
deserve
home.
to be able to go in front of a judge and defend why they're here. These are children, Scott, that we're talking about.
Do you think they made the conscious choice to come here on their own, or were they sent here for some other reason?
I don't know, actually.
Some of them
This
were
is the
probably
point.
abused.
None of us know that we're dealing with
stories of
children.
these children. None of us know the stories of these children.
I know.
They know the story of these children, but the hell if they're not defending them staying. These are women. Women. The argument is, should these children be sent back with their parents, biological parents? And women are fighting to keep them separated from them. And no one finds that odd. And they're just debating. And again, you can make this as silly as, they're just opposed to Donald Trump. Okay. But at what point does, rationale set in? Or do they just not have any? And these women are indignant at the idea that someone would send them back home to Guatemala. Are they admitting something about Guatemala? Because that's what I would ask. Scott is arguing about the wrong thing, which is, again, why everybody thinks that Scott is great. He can be. I think he's fun, but he's beating up on preschoolers over there on CNN. There's no intellectual match to an average person on CNN. I would have asked a deeper question. Please explain to me, what's the benefit of those children staying in group homes and in government facilities as opposed to them being with their mom and dad? What are you saying about their homeland? Why don't you just say that? What's wrong with Guatemala? And then get them on the record for that. Tell them that it's a hellscape. Tell them that Guatemala is an awful place. Tell them that every mother in Guatemala should be sending their kids on the long trek to come into the United States for a better opportunity for us as American citizens to take care of them. Who here thinks that these folks care that much about children? Guatemalan children at that. Because I look at the evidence. What happened in California when they freed those children of child slave labor at a marijuana farm? How did the left react? Did they celebrate the release of those children performing laborious acts, underage, probably getting paid pennies, under slave-like conditions? No, were they outside cheering them on? Yay! No. They threw stones, boulders even, at the ICE vans as they drove out of the facility. And I want you to think about this because no one ever mentioned it. An ICE van with ICE agents and young children inside the vehicle. Protesters are throwing rocks and bricks at the vehicle to harm ICE agents behind the wheel while children sit in the back seat. What would happen if an ICE agent driving the van were to lose control or be rendered unconscious or killed, with the children in the back seat. Probably because the protester didn't give a damn about the kid inside. Because it was never about the children. That child is a needed element in all of this for their consternation for ICE agents. Nobody cared about the kids. The kids were freed from pretty much slave labor. And what did protesters do? Put them in further danger as they were being driven out of the facility, being attacked with boulders that could very well kill them. And when they were throwing those bricks, they weren't throwing them with accuracy. They were throwing them into the windows where young children were in the back, putting their lives at risk as well. Spare me, folks. None of these people care about kids. And you don't need abortions as an understanding. They never did. These people are props. That's all. We'll talk about it some more when we return. Stand by.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Hey, guys, we are back, and in the event that you were wondering, because there was an announcement that President Donald Trump was going to be giving a speech today at 2, it usually starts off late, as always. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, is actually at the podium now, and the big announcement, if you haven't heard, is that Space Force Command is going to be going to Alabama. I believe it is in Huntsville in particular where there will be, because that is where NASA operates. The only reason why I know that is because I have former in-laws in that area. In fact, my ex-wife, as you all know, Mary lives down there in Alabama, in Huntsville. There is a lot of, well, as I always say, NASA already in that area. So Space Command, he's going to be naming the new Space Command for the Space Force. He's going to be calling it Rocket City, which I think is kind of, retro in a sense. I don't know if you remember that movie Rocketeer. It's very much in that vein of, Rocket City. I find it funny. Thinking of, as I heard or saw the Chiron that read Donald Trump calling it Rocket City, I immediately thought, what a perfect place to have a meeting with Kim Jong-un, the guy he referred to as Rocket Man. Bring Rocket Man to Rocket City and show him what real rockets look like. I don't know. I thought that would be funny. But nonetheless, that's what's going on. Katie Britt, is that who's speaking now? Yeah, I think that's Katie Britt. Donald Trump is pretty much giving the podium to everybody else to speak. So it looks like that's what the announcement is. Everybody, kind of people heard. Everyone heard, I should say, that this was going to happen maybe about a couple of hours ago. They had sort of let in that this was going to happen. Somebody said my audio sounds low on Facebook. I will work on that. I don't know how's that possible. Oh, you know what I think it is? I'll tell you exactly what it is. I know what it is. I'll work on that to find out exactly. Well, I found out exactly what it is. I'll fix it. When we come back, I've got to talk about headlines. I've also got to tease Alexandra Bauer with Moms for Liberty. We'll be on the program tomorrow at 4:05 to talk about her ordeal, how she pretty much became infamous with her fight with the Girl Scouts of America and what she's doing now with Moms for Liberty all across the country. And, of course, here in Connecticut, we'll talk about that with her tomorrow at 4:05. She's actually, I think she was on Newsmax today. And let me see what else I have to go. Okay, I got that. Oh, and then I've got Between Rounds. I've got that one. Oh, and that's what I forgot. I knew that I forgot about this. So today, we found out that Connecticut is concerned about ICE and the public school system. And Mark and I have been going back and forth about how we're going to do this investigation. See, something doesn't jive and somebody's lying. Because Connecticut has committed $659 million to educate illegal children in the state of Connecticut. Even though on the officially, they claim they have no idea who is or isn't illegal in the school system because they are not required to ask. Now, think about that. Imagine your wife and you lived in a huge house where you had foster children. You worked every day, 10, 15 hours a week, but your wife's pet project was to have foster kids throughout your mansion. And you saw the budget every day about what it costs for food and transportation for those kids, and you saw the number, and you went, sweetheart, how many kids are we feeding? And your wife responded, I don't know. I don't have a count. I don't have a head count. Well, you take from the budget this money every month, and you don't know how many kids there are, you would call her a liar. How do they come up with a budget if they don't know how many illegal kids are being cared for? And you know what? The Supreme Court says they have to educate every kid that's in their system. Fine, no argument there. But to suggest to me that you bureaucrats are educating a large number of children and you don't know the number sounds like garbage to me. So we'll look at those numbers. We'll look at what they're saying and how they're responding. Because again, and by the way, all of you who have to pay in to educate kids, you don't even get to know how many they are. They go to you every year and tell you how much money it's going to cost. And they don't even have to tell you. They're like, oh, we don't know how much. So how do you know how much you need? Well, because on average, this is what we spend. None of you took account, huh? Not one. Yeah, that's not something we do. And I can't believe none of you are demanding account. Unless somebody can explain to me otherwise, what am I missing? Can you have a number of kids or have a number of how much money you need to spend when you don't know how many kids they are? It's like, it could be 10,000. Give me 600 million. Oh, we got to take a break. Let's get to the newsroom. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC NewsTalk 1080.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC NewsTalk 1080.
All right, we're back. Next hour, we'll get into some phone calls. Let's take some news. I'm very, very much interested in this story, but that is only because I want to have an interview with this guy. Bridgeport election fraud scandals involving Democrat officials is one of the news stories that's barely being touched by the news. Ongoing investigations into absentee ballot harvesting and voter fraud in Bridgeport, including Democrat City Councilman Alfredo Castillo, facing over 30 felony charges for rigging primaries in 2019 and 2023. Castillo has implicated high-level Democrats, including Governor Ned Lamont and Senator Chris Murphy, in the schemes. This raises serious questions about the election integrity in Connecticut's largest city, where primaries often decide general elections. Mainstream media often downplays the political affiliations and broader implications, referring to suspects vaguely as a man rather than highlighting party ties or systemic issues. Look, I know that he's got a court case, and I know that his lawyers will probably tell him to clam up. But Alfredo Castillo, listen, if I'm you and I got this many felony counts and you know something, you know where the bodies are buried, in order to save your hide or to have at least somewhat of a career thereafter politically, and I don't mean an elected office, politically, you got to drop them. I mean, you got to drop the dime or the quarters or the $1.52. Whatever it is you got to drop all of it. And you got to come clean. If there are bigwigs, I mean, gosh, he's already implicated Lamont and Murphy. He's got to do an interview. So if anybody knows him and he's interested, we'd love to have him on the show. Also in the news, taxpayer-funded services to undocumented immigrants and abortion providers. Connecticut is allocated millions of taxpayer dollars, including $3 million for illegal services and nonprofits like Planned Parenthood, plus $1.3 billion overall, we talked about that a little bit, on immigrant support. In that $1.3 billion is where the $659 million for education alone sits. Amid rising utility cost, taxes, and housing shortages for residents, critics argue this prioritized non-citizens over locals, exacerbating economic strains like Medicaid shortfalls and educational funding gaps. Media coverage is minimal, often framing it as routine budgeting rather than contentious policy draining resources from citizens. Also in the news, economic fallout from the federal policy shifts, including solar layoffs. Now, this story that has tried to sort of gain some ground in the last week or so, look, if you are a solar company and you are hiring people based upon subsidies and funding, you are not a business, okay? That is not how businesses run. Businesses, and plenty of you out there who own a business, you don't get a lot of props when your company goes bankrupt because of government policies or regulation. No one ever pays attention to that. But people are paying attention to solar companies that are losing employees because they can't pay them anymore. Why? Why can't they pay them anymore? Because their salaries were based on government funding. That is not a model for business. Never has been, never will be. So I'm sorry that people are trying to create a sob story out of this, but there is none. There's no sob story. The reason why you're out of business is because you could not gain a profit on your own. People do not buy solar panels. When they come to my door, when they come to my door, every time they mention it, I go, ugh, I'm going to have to talk to this guy for an hour and a half, debunking why solar is good for my home. I know it. As soon as I see it, as soon as the guy goes, hey, are you interested in solar panels? I have to be rude. Yeah, I'm going to need you to go. But they don't give up. They don't. Well, let me tell you some things that I know about solar that would be, no, please, will you go? Just stop. And I feel bad because rejection sucks when you're in sales. But, you know, if you're in that sales department, you got to take another job. You just have to. I'm just saying. You got to take another job. Just please do that. Just do it. You got to. Now let's get to the stupidest thing I read today.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
The dumbest thing, the stupidest thing I read today is from The Hill. Headline: ranking Democrat contenders for president in 2028. Listed in the top 10 above North Carolina's Andy Beshear is Chris Murphy. In the top 10 of viable Democrat contenders for 2028. Here's what The Hill wrote. The Connecticut senator could, at least in theory, offer a best of all worlds approach to Democratic voters. Senator Chris Murphy has been emphatic in his criticisms of Trump. That means what? Nothing. Senator Chris Murphy has been emphatic in his criticism of Trump, whom he sees as a danger to democracy and has made effective use of social media. but he's also a broadly conventional senator who isn't easy to characterize as outside the American mainstream. The challenge for Chris Murphy would be how to outshine some of the bigger names on this list. The bigger names on the list include Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Kamala Harris. Chris Murphy can't outshine Kamala Harris. And the number one on the Hill's list is none other than horrible Gavin Newsom. That's who they have, again, as the top 10 contenders for 2028. And Gavin Newsom is number one. Kamala Harris is in the top 5. So is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. How are you not desperate for leadership when those are your top 3, if not your top 5? Andy Beshear is the only person, by the way, in that group I at least give consideration to. Josh Shapiro, as you know, is on that list, and Pete Buttigieg is on that list. Yes, I called him what Joe Biden called him, Buttigieg. That's his name. Even Roland calls him Buttigieg now. That's his name. I'm sorry. It just is. Yeah, so there's the dumbest thing and the stupidest thing I read today. All right, when we come back, I've got to talk about this article there it is, Bethel, because it also involves Kamala Harris and the voting records of people in Bethel, which is strange because I was watching Michael Schellenberger, who ran for governor of California. This was during the Gavin Newsom recall. And he ran, and a couple of other crazy people joining in, were running for governor. I think Larry Elder ran as well in that recall election, and sure enough, Gavin Newsom won. People thought that he was likely that he would lose, but he won, as we all know. And Schellenberger did this article immediately after talking about California neighborhoods as it related to low-income housing. And he found something very odd, that when it came to, propositions in the state, many of these communities, affluent communities, were quick to vote for propositions that would bring low-income housing to their communities. They would overwhelmingly vote, 70, 80%. They were killing it on that vote. And it looked good for California. Yeah, low-income housing, let's do it. But in order, as soon as they found a site, construction guys would come in and try to, build in a community. They would check the numbers too. Hey, people are for it. But of course, they had to have these little subcommittees. Neighborhood communities would have these meetings where they would talk about building these low-income housing facilities. And the communities would overwhelmingly go, oh, hell no. You're not building that here. And so Michael Schellenberger started investigating. It didn't make sense. Wait a minute. These people overwhelmingly voted for low-income housing. They just didn't want it in their communities. NIMBYs. Well, it turns out that Bethel has the same problem. A wealthy Connecticut suburb is facing down a Manhattan-based real estate development firm that wants to build a 75-unit affordable housing project, with well-heeled residents calling it an insult to Bethel's small-town vibes. The developer, a Manhattan-based Vessel Technologies, is warning officials in the Fairfield County town of Bethel that they face expensive litigation if they reject the company's 5-story, 75-unit apartment complex. The stark warning came during a heated Plan Commission meeting last week, where Vessel's attorneys delivered a blunt message about the state's 80-30G law that severely limits towns' ability to block affordable housing projects. Now, you might remember a couple of weeks ago, I talked about it. Like, every community has to have at least 10% of that community be, doled out to community housing. Low income housing. The Manhattan-based Vessels Technology is warning officials in Bethel, Connecticut, that they face expensive litigation if they reject the company's 5-story unit. At the cost of litigation is not something to be just disregarded, attorney Jason Klein told the commissioners last week, a comment that was perceived by town officials as a threat, the Connecticut Post reported. Vessel wants to construct its signature 5-story building on a nearly 4.5 acres long Nashville road, but offered a compromise to just 4 floors following heavy neighborhood pushback this summer. Bethel residents objected to the project, blasting its size and design as completely out of step with the town's low-rise, single-family character. Critics also complained that worsening traffic, parking shortages, safety issues, loss of privacy, and environmental impacts from stormwater to wildlife. While the proposal calls for the 75 units in totals, only 23 units would meet the state's minimum requirement for affordable housing under 80-30G. A point of contention among locals who argued that the project is being oversized for profit rather than community need. Many also take issue with the steel and glass design, calling it an insult to Bethel and a disruption of the community's village feel. This, according to the Greenwich Time. Neighborhoods also warn of worsening traffic, parking shortages, safety issues, loss of privacy, and environmental impacts. Planned development is slated to be built in place of the current properties at 48 and 50 Nashville Road in Bethel, according to Google Maps. Now, the thing that is driving people crazy about this is that Bethel, its voting record, was overwhelming for Kamala Harris. And of course, affordable housing was part of the tenets of her campaign and that of the Democrat Party. They believe that affordability is the biggest issue. And many of them also believe that plenty of low-income families do not have access to the suburbs. And they think that it's important that those communities have that access. But now they're pushing back when they're made to. It says here, as of July, the median home price in Bethel was around $582,000. The median household income in Bethel is $115,000, well above the national median household income of $77,000. Bethel residents object to the project blasting a 5-story unit. I'm sorry, that's actually the same thing I just read before. Hold on, I'm trying to get to the dirty part of all of this that people are that are upset about. Oh yeah, okay. Back to the Kamala Harris part. So people are sort of taking notice that Bethel doesn't really want to put its money where its mouth is when it comes to low-income housing. That they don't want it in their backyard. And people are criticizing them for it. But I don't hear anybody in Bethel actually becoming public or, going public and saying that they don't want it there. They're being very quiet about it. And they're doing it, sort of behind closed doors at their council meetings. What I would suggest is to go down to these council meetings and talk to the people of Bethel. I would ask them up front, hey, Bethel, what's your problem with low-income housing in your community? And where would you like it? If you don't like the steel structure, what architecture would you approve of? How many units would you really like in that community? Or, truth be told, do you want none? Or do you believe that it should be someplace else? Yeah, like windmills outside of the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport. Yeah, good point. Nobody ever wants low-income housing in their community. Not even low-income housing communities do. They just don't. They know what's going to happen. And these people may not openly admit that it's going to be crime-ridden. They can't openly admit that because they know that, forget about it, the town is doomed. As far as the reputation is concerned, they'll be doomed. But I'll put in amount of money that there are plenty of people in Bethel. You show up, or you'll see at all of these rallies, so-called caring about the disenfranchised, the poor, the needy. Just don't put that in our town, which I thought was crazy, but here we are. When we come back, this story that we've been trying to get to for the longest is about Hakeem Jeffries and Zohran Mamdani. Did you hear today that Letitia James, in an act of desperation, has joined the Democrats in rooting for Mamdani as the mayor of New York? We'll talk about why Hakeem Jeffries has been reluctant to do so, and a nickname that he received from Charlemagne, the guy on Power 105 or whatever that Breakfast Club show is, and what David Hogg said about Hakeem Jeffries and the truth behind why he has been reluctant to throw his support behind him. So we got that. We've got Between Rounds coming up, the winner there. Also, Hollywood News is coming up. For all of you gamers out there, and I know there's some older men out there who are gamers, you're going to be excited about this news that just broke today about that. And plus, we got your phone calls coming up as well. So stand by for that. All the news that's fit to spit, plus your comments in the chat room. Oh, and please go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com to read my latest article titled In Sickness and in Health, There is No Gender Fluidity. Is that the name of it? Gender is not fluid. That's it. Even in sickness and health, gender is not fluid. That's my new article in my Substack. You can also find it at the Connecticut Sentinel. That article is there. It's actually pretty good. It's not a long read, but it's a lengthy one. If you want to check that out, you got to go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com. That's REESE ontheradio.com to read my Substack. Become a subscriber there so it can go directly to your email when I write it. It's every Sunday. It's good Sunday reading. And it's, for me, it's thoughtful. I actually take a lot of time putting that stuff together for you. And it's other content when you don't have Reese on the radio on the weekend. So stand by for that. More news and more views than you can shake a stick at. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
WTIC News Talk 1080 is celebrating 100 years on the air.
Yeah, we are. Anyway, we're back. Reese on the radio, WTIC News Talk 1080. Plenty of news and plenty of views to get to, plus your phone calls at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have on from Moms for Liberty, Alexandra Bauer. She's joining the program at about 4:05 tomorrow. We'll talk about what she's doing and how she's getting more and more moms energized to fight back against woke policies inside schools. Her story, if you haven't heard about it, is an incredible story about how she was removed from her Bergen, New Jersey chapter of the Girl Scouts because she refused transgenderism to be taught to little girls. And I'm going to mention it to her tomorrow. There was this documentary on Netflix about a scandal inside the Boy Scouts of America and some very inappropriate behavior by Scoutmasters with the boys at the Boy Scouts of America. And again, it got a lot of news. It got a lot of play. And I thought it was just odd, as I was reading her story yesterday, that the Girl Scouts, the National Girl Scouts of America, didn't have a problem with these sexualized lessons in the Girl Scouts, even with those scandals going on, and the documentary happening around the same time. It's just weird. But we'll talk to her about that and about her story and about what she's doing now, about energizing moms with her organization, Moms for Liberty. I got wind of them back in Loudoun County. When I started my moving company, it was in Loudoun County. And it was taking place as the Moms for Liberty were sort of energized by the actions inside the Loudoun County schools. You remember them famously about the boy identifying as a girl was inside of a bathroom and attacked a family's 14-year-old, 15-year-old daughter, and the father being arrested at a school board meeting. That's what it was, a school board meeting. It was pretty much where all of the impetus of the school board meetings where these parents were showing up. But this man being arrested at the school board meeting, and he was there to confront the school board who had hid the assault on his daughter. And that's what led to the nationwide response to what went on there, and of course everywhere else that we found in the education system. So we'll talk to her about that, about what they're doing. Matt says, I just contributed $1,000 to DQuat for Democrats. They promised me it will help me, it will keep me healthy. We doubt that. We're actually going to have an update on that very soon, speaking of the DQuat argument. If you've noticed, DQuat is no longer the conversation for a lot of folks, even those at DEEP, the EPA, or even the news media. DQuat has somehow just disappeared. Now other herbicides are being used, which I find amazing. That's how they chose to deal with it. Let's just not use DQuat. It became such a PR nightmare for them. They've decided to go other places and use different herbicides. It's funny. And they're using them in different spots, right? Different locations are using different herbicides, which I find very funny. That's the case for, what are you going to do? Let's go to the phones real quick. Fred in Middletown is on the line. What's up, buddy?
Hey, so I'm waging the DQuat wars here in Middletown.
Are you?
I don't know. I think I forget who I told this to, but I saw a guy spraying. I'm sitting drinking coffee in a business. And there's a guy outside spraying, and the person I'm with points it out to me and points out that he's not signing. There's no signage. And
really?
So I run out. Yes. And he's spraying the tree beds, Main Street in Middletown.
Wait, now, hold on. The tree beds, we're not talking about water. We're talking actual agriculture, which, by the way, is illegal.
Yeah, they're like 4x8 cutout where there's a tree coming up by the curb on the sidewalk. Yeah, the mulch in there, yeah. He's spraying that with Roundup. He's got the family size, the economy. And so I go out and I point out to him. He's not, I go, aren't you supposed to be signing? He goes, no, I don't need to sign. And so I go, I think you are. So by the time I go back inside, my buddy's punched up the ordinance, that says you got to sign if you're within like an inch of anyone else's property line. So I signed for him. I'm a stick figure cartoonist. I did a cartoon and said, banned poison here, not the banned poison. And a dog sniffing a weed going, whoa, why am I getting dizzy and nauseous from sniffing this weed? And then another one, it's a riff off Ogden Nash poem. It's called By a Panther, Don't Answer. So people my age know that one. So this was, if called by cancer, don't answer.
Yeah.
Roundup in the house. And so then just now, today, I put up, because there's 4 of them, and I only had 2 up. And I see everyone looking at them. It's rained 5 times, and they're still there. Like, it's magic.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So today I put up one that said mulch plus DQuat. And then in parentheses, DQuat has replaced glyphosate and Roundup. And then I signed it, my name, Fred, Minister of Harmless Poisons. So, yeah, I'm fighting the battle. And
I hear you, but wait a minute. Now, the guy who was spraying it, which company was he with?
He's just a flunky for the property owner.
Oh, so in essence, this is the dangerous part. Because the biggest argument about this DQuat thing is that spraying in the water, they kept telling her, no, safe and effective. We're not doing it on land because that's got the possibility of runoff and getting into the drinking water. And here this guy is just some schmo hired by the apartment complex to just spray it. Who knows where that spray is going to end up? By the way, Was he covered?
Yeah.
But was he covered?
No, he wasn't wearing any protection. He just said, it was Roundup, so it might have been old Roundup, but it still has the really safe glyphosate in it.
Yeah.
But there's some offices and the health food store there. He wasn't covered. I saw him a couple of years ago. I used to pull weeds around there because I have a relationship with the business, and I saw him spraying, and I'm like, dude, the lawyers are looking for you when you get your non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer.
Damn right.
Lawsuit. And he slowed it up. He's like, I'll finally do right by my wife. Leave her some money when I die. Yeah, but don't take me down with you.
Yeah,
please,
exactly. Exactly. This is
real quick things. So your wife is dangerous, dude. Hoarding is something that, you're more likely to recover from cigarettes or crack than hoarding.
Okay.
It's a thing.
In her defense, I am not going. There was a little bit of hoarding. It was dangerously close.
The fact that she threw stuff out means she has put down hoarding cold turkey.
Yes,
she did what you described.
Listen to me.
Dude.
That I'm telling you. When I first moved her, right? She was moving from a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor to a first floor 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
It was the first place we moved in together. And when we were moving there, again, it took me 3 days because I had to carry everything down 3 flights of stairs. But anyway, as I'm moving all of this stuff and putting it in the new place, I'm looking at it. Now, I'm trying to be a good boyfriend at the time. So I don't want to criticize her choices for keeping things. But the stuff that I'm noticing as I'm carrying these heavy books out there, I'm going, wait a minute, are these grade school books? The boy's now in high school, and I'm like, why are we carrying grade school books? They were like, well, there is 5th grade algebra books. And I'm like, why are we keeping these? They were like, she's like, because they're important to me. They're memories. And I'm going, oh. So I'm trying to just let it go. Now, mind you, that was in 2021, 22. Okay, I finally got her to get rid of them this year, so I kind of feel like I'm going to deal with the deck that's been handed me and take the applause or take the good
what I got
fortune.
Was that she just kind of busted the move, though. It wasn't even like you got her to. You said your piece almost meaninglessly.
Well, you know what? She really likes the move that we're making. But here's the part that she's realizing. Is that in order for us to live in a place that's as big as ours in Connecticut, it's going to cost a crap load of money. And she knows that we're not going to be...
space-dollar ratio.
That's all it... Exactly. It's a space-dollar ratio. You're 100% right. And because she knows, like the place that we were looking at that we didn't end up getting because we couldn't sort of manage the month that we would move in, and we really wanted to do December, but they couldn't wait that long, was it was like 2 hotel rooms put together. It was really, really small. And the amount of space we were going to have, all of our stuff wasn't going to fit in it. So she had finally decided I would rather sacrifice the stuff than the actual square footage, and that's when she made the decision. So
see, some people go down as an enemy of reality, though. So she did change, Yeah.
I'm glad look. Like I said, I take the win as a win. I got to win, and I didn't have to force the issue. She did it on her own.
Yeah, there you go. Well, God bless you and
Thank
all
you,
that.
sir. Thank you.
Right,
I appreciate you. You got it. I'm just happy. Look, it's one of those things that you have to just wait it out. I used to get frantic and needed the change when I needed the change, but I was relaxed. And it eventually, because I had to look at it and she had to look at it and she had to go, okay. Can I tell you something? I'm going to share this with you for those of you who are watching online. If you're listening on the radio, you can go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com on this portion of the show, roughly about 3:50. You can go to this portion of the show. What I'm holding in my hand right here is one of the things that she wanted to keep, and it's like this message board, and I don't even know what some of this stuff is. But it's not even, I don't know what it is. It's got a whole bunch of other words on it and some phrases. It's like, it's got some really, really like writing on it that she was putting up. And I'm going, what is this for? And apparently it's like a vision board of like past and present weird stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do with this? But she's finally getting rid of it. Like I said, I'm taking it for what it is. I'm congratulatory and happy that she's getting rid of it. That's all I could say. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views, and we've got Between Rounds coming up, and also the John Larson episode with Chris Murphy. Apparently, the two are campaigning together. What does that mean? We'll tell you when we return. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
My wife tells me that it's not a vision board. I don't know what the heck it is. I don't even try to understand that stuff. It's her birthday, and because we have so much stuff going on, I can't really celebrate it the way I want to. I didn't expect things to happen so fast, but it has, and we're working on that, and I have to make it up in another way. So it's really, really odd to do. What do you do? Roland, if I may ask you, when you have to celebrate your wife's birthday, and I hate phrasing it that way when you have to, when your wife's birthday comes around, how far in advance do you start planning when you do? Like, is it weeks? Is it months? Is it the day after her last year's birthday?
Well, me and her birthday is a 13-day difference. So.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so most of the time we end up celebrating together and doing something like that.
You do know that that's the same thing with Roseanne and I, right? Mine is on August 14th. Hers is September 2nd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same amount of time. 17 days. So, yeah, it's really rough. But because it's so close, are you, like, how many months do you prepare?
I don't prepare at all.
You don't?
No. Like, when we did our 40th together, we prepared for that. But other than that, no.
Oh, so, like, it's got to be like a milestone birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's interesting.
Yeah, otherwise it's just,
This is one of the...
Tell me what you want.
Right. Tell me what you want, and I'll get that.
And I'll get that, and I'll get something just so it's nice. I'll get something that I think you would like also. So you have what you wanted, and then what I got for you.
What? Okay, you know what I can't understand? Maybe you can explain it. But why isn't cash the same thing as what you just described? I'm just saying. When you say, hey, tell me what you want, she's doing the work. You're just purchasing it so she has what she wants as the gift. I don't understand how that's a different from, like cash.
It's the thought and the process.
It's not much thought.
Okay, I know what she wants. So I'm going to go out. I have to actually go out and meet with whoever I have to meet with to get what she wants. Package it up for her. Say some nice words in a birthday card. Go out to dinner.
Right.
Give it to her. And, that whole process, if you just give her cash, is like, there's no thought in it. So
I'll tell you,
you got to at least have a little bit of effort.
Can I tell you one of the biggest downsides, though, to preparing for Roseanne's birthday? Is that gosh, this is going to sound so horrible, but I don't mean it to be because it's going to just sound bad. So we don't really spend a lot of time apart. So we're always kind of right next to each other or up under each other. Like, this is the most free time, for lack of a better word, that I have. So because we're always right next to each other, it's difficult to surprise her with stuff.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like,
so you don't have enough alone time to set stuff up.
I don't. Like, if I go somewhere, the furthest I'll go is to the corner store. Like, if I'm away for a considerable amount of time, it would be a dead giveaway that I'm doing something. Like, if it's around her birthday, she'll know. So there's no way I can surprise her because we spend every waking moment with one another. It's really bad. Not that I'm complaining.
So what you have to do is you got to, take an extra long bathroom break
and order something
and set it up that way.
No way I can do it. I can't use Amazon because we're under the same account. So I got to find something else. Maybe I'll use eBay. I don't know.
You got to hire somebody.
Yeah. That's what I have to do. You're 100% right. Let's get our first check of weather in traffic. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Mark, I hope you have better luck buying gifts for your wife than I do.
She just tells me what she wants, and I get it.
You see? This is the whole
simple.
money thing. That's
pretty
all
simple.
I wish it was that simple. I wish it wasn't this woman.
So just send me a link to something, and I'll go, okay, honey, it will magically appear on your birthday or your Christmas present or your anniversary present.
When you're doing traffic, I'm going to ask her about that, and I'm going to tell you what she says.
Don't get into trouble, buddy.
You know I will.
I know that, too. Hey, if you're
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Yeah, let's do the thing.
Savory, flavory, bagel, deli, and bakery. Between rounds.
And congratulations goes to Ed S. That is Ed S. in Southington. He is the winner of the dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, located in South Windsor, Vernon, and Manchester. If you'd like an opportunity to win, you got to go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com. That's REESE ontheradio.com to enter. Please put in your telephone number and your date of birth. It is important that we get that in there, or Roland will not send you your bagels. In fact, he'll just send the name back to me and say, we don't have a telephone number or a date of birth. So make sure you fill all that out. You must live in the state of Connecticut, and you must not have one within the last 6 months. You also cannot be Roseanne on the radio. I didn't realize it was Tuesday, and I was going to say that Bob Smirnick was in with weather, but I knew that was wrong because he was in yesterday. So Bob Larson's back with weather coming up in a bit. When we return, I'm going to talk to you about Susan Campbell, who wrote an opinion piece about a Trump revenge tour in Connecticut. This, of course, has to do with immigration in the state and the fight against Donald Trump. There's another article by Dan Haar, talking about how lawmakers are going to be fighting against Donald Trump and ICE to prevent them from getting illegals out of the state. The interesting part about this article is that no one seems to know how to fight ICE. And there's another article that was in the Hartford Courant over the weekend that said, that kids at school are afraid of ICE, and they're concerned that, children are not going to be allowed to school, of course, because of the Meriden. By the way, I am getting some information on the Meriden High School kid, Kevin Moreno. I'm getting some information on his whereabouts and why he is being held from ICE. They should be contacting me, if not today, maybe tomorrow, but I'll have some follow-up on that story. All right? So when we come back, we'll talk about all those stories and much, much more. Let's get into another check of weather and traffic with Bob Larson and Mark Christophers in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
So I'm reading this article this morning, and it is by Dan Haar in the Connecticut Insider. Connecticut to weigh new protections against ICE. Other Trump moves as activists bring pressure. And in this article, it's always kind of inside the details. You know the old saying, devil's in the details. And as I'm reading this, it keeps talking about activist groups who are putting pressure on Democrat leaders in the legislature, in the Senate, and even the governor. This article puts in front of this, in essence, the activist groups are the ones who are determining the policy when it comes to Democrats in the state. How that's problematic or how it isn't problematic, I don't know, but it is. Here's one paragraph. It's all part of what appears to be a new phase in the political wars, stepped up by policy actions by opponent of Trump's orders, making it all more complex. Connecticut's Democrat-nominated General Assembly and its Democrat governor are not just debating among themselves with the local Republicans. No one can say how this new round of actions will land in Washington, D.C., and what countermeasures they might bring. Quote, You're going to start seeing tons of communities, public hearings, and informational sessions after Labor Day, said House Speaker Matt Ritter of Hartford. He said that before the holiday weekend. That started Tuesday, and the legislature's Human Services Committee launches an informational hearing, meaning that speakers will be invited, experts, but not general public, on the possible federal cuts in Medicaid and family food assistance. Also Tuesday, Lamont and other state officials will be at the Connecticut Food Share Office and warehouse, talking about previously announced new aid and the private group that supports 600 local food pantries. Ritter described a multi-pronged approach that will culminate in a special session most likely in October, rather than September, as many had expected. Two issues lie at the core. First, adjustments to compensate for cuts in federal support, especially in food, energy, and health care, and a revived housing bill to replace the one the Democrats passed in the spring, only to see Lamont slap it down with a veto. This is inside an article talking about ICE removing illegals. Do you understand? All of this is about illegals getting tax dollars and how it is the most important issue ever. Why? Why is it the most important issue ever? Because they have 684,000 constituents to care about. That against a paltry 384,000 blacks in the state. And if you know that the number of people 18 and up in the black community are only 298,000, let's just round it up for 300,000 folks. Just round it up. Versus close to 500,000 in the Hispanic community. What's the percentage that show up at the polls in the black community versus the Hispanic Latino community? What's the number? That number used to be 24% in the black community. Used to be. In Connecticut, what do you think it is? Come on, folks. Let's be honest. What do we really think it is? I would be stretching if I thought it was 18%. Stretching. I think that's too modest. Does anybody notice, by the way, Connecticut does not keep numbers on race and election data? Did you know that? Who thinks that's bull? Who thinks that's bogus? They know exactly who their constituents are, and that number is important. That 479,000, 18 and older, putting all of that effort into protecting them against ICE, it is everywhere in the news cycle. No matter who the news outlet is, they are focusing on this issue. It's the most important issue to all of them. It is, and again, what are they talking about? Housing, food, Medicaid, Social Security. All of the things they tell us illegals do not have a foothold in at all. But here we've got William Tong, we've got Gilchrist, Justin Elliker. He was just in the top of the hour news talking about that. Oh, we got to make sure that we take care of our people. They're talking about taxpayer dollars. And no one's saying a word. Look, if there are people in the state that are fine with their tax dollars going to illegals in the state, fine. Just be upfront about it. If you're okay with them having Social Security benefits, say it. If you're okay with them having Section 8 housing, okay, say it. But they won't. They keep telling us over and over again that it's not being done. And then to have the public officials and the elected officials contradict their own claims. Remember, they told us that for the longest. They called this program and this network and told us that it wasn't happening, that any suggestion was a flat-out lie. And now we've got people suing the Trump administration to do exactly the opposite of what they said wasn't happening. And no one says a word. Let's go to Ralph. Hey, how we doing, sir?
Oh, hanging in there, and beautiful weather down here like you guys are having. Hey, Reese, have you ever gone up 95 north and south?
Of course. I mean, I spent like half my childhood up and down the 95 corridor.
And you've seen the signs, Virginia is for lovers?
I used to live in Virginia, so yes.
Well, with the Democratic candidate for governor, they're changing the signs. Virginia is for criminals.
Yeah, Spamberger was always, I didn't even think that she had aspirations to be governor when I was there. It's nice to see her getting her butt kicked by what's her name? Why am I forgetting her name now? Sears.
Right.
Winsome, yeah.
Winston Sears. But another thing, can you imagine, you're a pretty sharp guy, running TV commercials, the Republicans showing criminals with their records saying this is who she supports and wants in the state to prey on your families. Can you see these ads running every day, Reese?
They have to run every day.
And they should do it in Connecticut because Connecticut does the same thing. I don't know of anybody in their right mind who doesn't want convicted criminals thrown out of this country. I don't know any.
I think that a strong part of that is like you have to really think about this. I was playing this audio earlier, and maybe I'll play the other clip to it as well. So they do not believe in the criminality of crossing the border. That has been this conversation online and in the newsrooms, that they believe that criminality has these sort of tiers, if you will, right? They don't believe that crossing the border is illegal and it shouldn't be counted as a crime as you would, I don't know, theft. They don't consider that a crime, even though damn well those people coming into the country and stealing housing, stealing pretty much, benefits from other American citizens who could use it, like the people in North Carolina after the storm, that is all a form of theft, but they don't see it that way. They see it as need.
Of course not. And they talk about the lack of housing. You know why? You're a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
There's a lack of housing because all these illegals are taking it. And they're taken away from American citizens.
Exactly. And again, they cannot. What I think is happening here is, like Chris Murphy has done, and we've shown examples of this, is that anyone who pushes back on their efforts to get this housing to illegals in the state is racist in kind, right? So you can't question them on what they're doing, leaving other people out in the cold and addressing those needs for illegals. Anything even remotely pushback to that means that you are a racist. So, and what happens when you ask a question like that? You're immediately on the defensive. I'm not a racist. And then that completely takes you off the ball. I tell them, I don't care if you think I'm racist.
Reese, in my firm belief, I believe that you have a better chance of becoming president than Chris Murphy.
Well, you're probably right about that. Thank you, boss.
The man hasn't got the brain God gave him that.
I appreciate it. Which, by the way, speaking of which, okay, here I am with a salary and a job, and you think Reese on the radio is going to find housing in Connecticut? Should I go down, since I'm here already? Maybe I should go 4 hours south, cross the border, and somebody will get me housing any place I want to. That's what I'll do. I'll cross the border at the Rio Grande, come back over, and when they ask me, hey, where do you want to live? I'll go, Farmington, Connecticut, roughly a 2 to 3 bedroom spot. Maybe you can help a brother out. Let's go to Bill in Torrington. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Reese. How are you today?
Pretty good, sir. What's up?
I think it's laughable that anyone who would think that illegals aren't getting benefits when the Democrats tell us all the time that they have to look out for the constituents that matter most. In fact, on multiple occasions, you've played audio clips of Chris Murphy saying exactly that.
Exactly the point. and they know, look, the other part that I don't seem to understand, Bill, is that who are the people who are, as far as constituents go, who are they who are echoing that same sentiment that these people are the most important? We never hear from those folks. They may show up at these rallies, but I don't see them there. I remember the rally that we had with Chris Murphy in West Hartford with Chris Murphy and Dick Blumenthal. The people who showed up there, almost every person in the room was the activist class. There were not average citizens there.
And that's who shows up to most of those rallies. People who are activists, or people, as you've said many times, are people who are paid to be there.
Yes.
I'm trying to talk slower than I usually do.
You're doing great, Bill. I appreciate you, buddy.
I'm your fast talking friend from Torrington.
I know you are, Bill. Thank you so much, man. I always appreciate the call. Thank you for joining. Let's go to Wall Street Joe before we take a break. What's going on, sir?
Hey, Reese. How's Fountain Village going?
Not yet. We're not going. It hasn't gotten to that point yet, but we're crossing our fingers.
I've gotten some inside word that some of the illegals love it there.
I believe it. See, now I'm the type of guy, Joe, that if I were to see them, I would go right up to them and interview them.
That's why I thought you'd be there. You'd be there to be on. You'd be in the heart of the storm.
Absolutely. I would love to. Look, I've talked to them. In fact, you know what? Now that you mention it, I do have to call my sister-in-law. I talk about it all the time. She got into this country in the trunk of a car when she was 16 years old through the southern border. And I'll never forget my conversation with her. In fact, my brother was hesitant to introduce her to me because of that. He was like, I don't know if you should meet her. And I'm like, what's wrong with her? And he was like, well, she got here illegally. And I'm like, okay. Like, he thought that I was just this, this conservative that was just like heretic. And I was, I sat and I talked to her for a while. She told me the whole story. I found it fascinating. What was I going to do? Call ICE on her? She was legal by the time I met her anyway. But it was an interesting story because it gave me sort of an insight that a lot of us don't really see. And I talked to another woman not too long ago, Joe, who was a smuggler of people into the country. And that conversation.
Very lucrative.
Yeah, it was, but no. Here's the thing. This will blow your mind. She, like many others who were smuggling in, were all addicted to drugs. And the cartels sought out drug users to pay them pennies on the dollars. So even they were finding cheap labor to help and assist them in smuggling people. I'm going to talk a little bit about it on the next side of the break. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah. How incredible is that? They were penny pinching, cartels, penny pinching, getting paying low-income wages to smugglers into the United States. I'll tell you about it on the other side. Let's get another check on the weather and traffic with Bob Larson and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
One of the things that I've always paid attention to is how people talk about where other people live. And I don't know if you heard this from the Washington Post, but the Washington Post put this out talking to, I guess, people who used to work in Bristol at ESPN. Roland, you'll love this. So here's the piece in the Wall Street Journal. When ESPN told employees in March that it would be closing its Los Angeles Sports Center operation, it gave about 35 staffers a choice. Move to the network's headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut, or lose your job. Fewer than half accepted. That was fine with ESPN. To work at the world's most storied sports media company it's often Bristol or bust, and ESPN isn't going anywhere. Employees have lamented living in the central Connecticut city practically since ESPN was founded in 1979. Decades later, Bristol is often still a punchline. Former host Keith Olbermann jokingly called it a God-forsaken place on the East Coast during an appearance with former ESPN colleague Craig Kilborn, I guess that's his name, The Daily Show. Bill Rasmussen, ESPN's founder, described the roots as saying they took a dump and put fresh grass over it and called it prime real estate, he called it. Now, again, I only read this because I often try to remind people, think about what people say about your state and think about the people who do. And then consider the source. Keith Olbermann? Really? Craig Kilborn? Really? Where are they now? Where are they now? The fact that anybody would quote the two of those guys, I just, again, don't get it, but here we are. Keith Olbermann ripping Bristol. That's why you have to have hometown pride. Now, I'm from Hollis, Queens. I will tell you this, as long as I live, I represent Hollis, Queens. I do. New York, a different animal. They killed that place. But I represent Hollis, Queens. Run DMC, LL Cool J, all day. That will always, no matter how crappy it gets, I will always represent Hollis, Queens. But don't let people crap on your town. Keith Olbermann. It's, kind of bad. You got to make those guys, recognize. Anyway, we move on. Let's get back to weather and traffic. Bob Larson and Mark Christopher's in a BPS traffic center. Can you believe that crapping on Bristol where ESPN is?
I'm not surprised by Olbermann. He seems to flame out wherever he goes, and
this guy has always got he's just belly aching about everything.
Yeah, that's his history, so I'm not surprised by that.
The NAACP calls him, whoa, I don't think I'm allowed to read this.
It's Reese on the radio.
Let's just say some people are not fans.
On News Talk 1080. WTIC.
Let's get to the phones. Plenty of you have been on hold. I promise I will get to you. Also, when we come up, I've got some movie news, some Hollywood news to get to. So stand by for that. It's pretty fun today, especially for you gamers out there. I'm always iffy about Hollywood and gaming, the video game sort of space. But this one was actually pretty good news. Let's go to Frank, who's in Woodbridge. How are you, sir?
Good. I got about 2 minutes. We're leaving to Sicily. I want to just tell you this. You missed the biggest story, though, because you weren't on Friday. Donald Trump lost in federal court with the tariffs. Ever since then, gold is going through the roof. Now, tomorrow he's going to the Supreme Court. I'll be in Sicily. I'll follow the story. If he loses in the Supreme Court, that gold is going to go to the moon because it's going to blow such a hole in the deficit. We're going to have to give back all that money.
I don't believe he's going to lose because.
You better hope not.
Oh no, I don't think he is. And again, this is one of those deals where, this is Donald Trump has gone painstakingly to make sure that the letter of the law is followed with it. Like, people are thinking that Donald Trump is just coming up with these executive orders that are going to be challenged and they don't have a backup plan. They've gone through the letter of the law because they know that it's going to end up in the Supreme Court anyway, and it's forcing their hand. Without a doubt, I don't think it's going to turn out.
Let me tell you this before I go.
Yes.
Rush Limbaugh, the great Rush Limbaugh, before he died, he said the Supreme Court would never overturn Roe versus Wade. May he rest in peace.
Hold on. And guess what? I was the only person who disagreed with him openly.
Right, but you can't take the chance. This is the biggest decision. If they lose, we got to give back $300 or $400 billion, and all those deals are dead.
Yeah,
it's going to blow a hole through the debt.
I know that's going to
pay for the tax cuts.
And guess what? And I know exactly why it's not. He's not going to fail at the Supreme Court. But anyway,
good luck with your new place, you and Roseanne. And tell Roseanne I said happy birthday. And let me tell you something. Next time I go to Sicily, I want you on that plane with me.
You got it, boss man. I appreciate you.
Take care. I'll call you October 1st when I get back.
You got it. Let's go to Sam in West Hartford. How are you, Sam?
How you doing, Reese?
What's up?
So I'm calling to get off topic a little bit. I just want to let people know that Sergeant Brian Fahey was arrested.
Yeah, we mentioned that last Friday.
Tomorrow in Danielson.
Yes.
So anyone who wants to support their First Amendment freedom, please go to Danielson Court tomorrow and peacefully protest.
You got it. We did mention it Friday, Sam. As soon as we literally broke news, as soon as it came over, one of the people in the chat room let us know. I think Zach was the one who let us know. We did report on it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And let's go to Sean in Meriden. How are you, Sean?
Good. Just real quick. I just called the governor's office and asked them about illegal immigrants in the state of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And they go, we don't consider them illegal. We consider them undocumented people. I said, so if I go to a store right now and I liberate them of their money, I'm not really robbing them. I'm really relocating their finances to a insecure place like me, right? And he goes, "That's ridiculous." I said, "That's what you think we're doing. You think we're biting the bullet, and we don't understand that you're taking our taxpayer dollars and giving them to illegal immigrants who have not invested a dime into the thing, and it's not coming out of his pocket. It's coming out of those who have a job."
You know what?
I said, "Do you think that's fair?" He goes, I'm not really sure. I said, "If you're not sure, then you should quit your job."
I don't think
you don't understand.
I don't think that they.
We work to put money away.
I don't think that they understand a tough question at all. And what I've always asked about this undocumented thing, then what does that make you and I, Sean? Are we documented Americans? We are, right? If they're undocumented immigrants, are you and I documented Americans? I thought we were just Americans.
And what are the benefits of the documented Americans? Because we have to work harder to get our documents.
Great point. Very good point. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you. One more. Let's go to Fulton and Waterbury. How are you, sir?
What's up, buddy? I want to talk about police funding. I mean, I don't know if everybody knows how much federal funding goes into police departments in Connecticut. I mean,
I don't know. I can look it up real quick. What do you got?
No. I'm going to tell you because I was a cop. So most vice dogs have an ATF agent and a DEA agent working out of them. So
that's right.
Are those people part of the Trust Act, or can you not help them?
Such a good point. Such a good point.
We take that money, right? And every federal grant we take for like everything, I don't understand. Like we had a lot of positions that were great positions through federal grants. What happens when Trump decides, you don't want to cooperate? Okay, no more federal money. Like I would imagine it makes up a lot of the budget of most departments.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a huge part of this Dan Haar article talking about the Trust Act and whether or not they should expand on it, which means it's going to take another legislative session where they're going to have to expand the rules of the Trust Act, in essence, keeping the local government or local police from helping federal agents or ICE, no matter what the threat is.
That's going to cut them twice, because that's going to help them with their Border Patrol nonsense that's going on now, whatever. And then it's going to come back and bite them when it comes back the full way, you know?
Exactly. That's more than likely what's going to happen here, is that they will argue that they should get federal funding while refusing to assist ICE agents getting criminals out of the state.
That's what I'm saying. Like I would just say you don't get any. Like you don't want to, like if we don't have any ATF agents, we're going to pull them. There goes all your gun funds.
Yep.
So what's going to happen in New Haven when you have no gun funds? I mean, there's like how many murders now?
Yeah, look, it's not like it can't be done. Sean Duffy pulled transportation money from the state of Connecticut.
Tell you what, in 2000, and around the 2000s, they had a thing called Project Safe Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, it was run by Pat Griffin. He's now the state's attorney in Hartford, the head state's attorney.
Mm-hmm.
They put people federally with gun crimes. So if you had a gun in Waterbury and we caught you, you were doing federal time, which is much harder than state time. So and it got guns off the street. It put bad people away for a long time. I think that's what they really need to do.
I agree.
So that's all in my point today.
You got it, sir.
But,
I couldn't agree with you more about that Fed crime.
Where was it more deadly? Was it more deadly in Chicago, or was it more deadly in Afghanistan or Ukraine and
You know what? As Chicago for a long time, even during like the drawdown out of Iraq was still safer than Chicago at the same time.
54 shots, 7 dead in Chicago this week. What was the death count in Afghanistan and Israel? It's not even close, right?
Yeah.
Like, where would you rather be, right? Palestine or Chicago?
Exactly. Good point.
Right,
Thank you, boss.
That's all I got today.
You got it, boss. Thank you. That's it's a good point because of the fact that, I almost feel like the citizens in Chicago and D.C. for a while, but I can name any one of these, Los Angeles, San Francisco. I was watching a video over the weekend about pickpocketing. I have no idea why, but it ended up in the scroll of things that I was watching, and pickpocketing showed up. And I thought it was interesting in the discussion of this sort of misdirect. Like, how does an average pickpocketer work today? And we've seen the routine pickpocketer. And, Roland, have you ever been pickpocketed? Anybody ever take, like, anything out of off your person? Never had it happen? Okay. You keep your head on a swivel in crowded places, or do you just not go to crowded places?
Both.
Okay, good. I was a kid. I was roughly about 7, 8 years old. And a couple of kids taught me about pickpocketing. And it was a place called, I can't remember the name of the town. It was in New York, though. I want to call it Boomfield or Bloomfield. I can't remember. But it's near Elmira. And these kids who were trying to get me into Pink Floyd were teaching me about pickpocketing. And they taught me, like, how pickpocketers worked in their town. And the objective was to bump my shoulder to then take the wallet or whatever belonging was out of my back pocket. So they were trying to warn me, never keep anything in your back pocket, because all you need is a distraction. You distract them by this thing, and once you have their attention, they're not paying attention to the thing that they're trying to steal. It's like sleight of hand magic. That's all it is in a pickpocketing sense. And so as I'm watching it, and these are like Romanian guys online, and they are with this reporter, and the reporter's following them with a camera as they steal items from people just riding the train or walking into busy streets, stealing stuff out of women's purses, stealing their sunglasses out of their pockets, things that, that didn't even matter or people didn't pay attention to, just stuff that you put in your pocket. And they were taking them out of the weirdest places, like places you would normally feel someone lifting an item from. But they talked about the distractions. What was also crazy is that they were working in crowds. Like, sorry, not just in crowds, I apologize. They were working with teams. So it would be about 3, 4, sometimes 5 guys on one mark. But as I was watching all of this, and the amazing technique of how they pickpocket you, I was thinking about Pritzker and what's his name, Governor Newsom, Tim Walz and the like, some of these people in these major cities where all of the crime is. And I equate it to sort of pickpocketing, where the distraction is Donald Trump. Like all of these horrible things that are going to happen if you don't stop him. And the end result is the stuff that is going to be taken from you. That's all this is. It's almost done in the same vein. Like Governor Pritzker was out on the trail telling Americans and fellow citizens of Illinois that they must stop Trump from bringing in the National Guard because that is about something else. While that is happening, as you heard earlier, some 50 people shot, 7 died, murdered. And the focus is supposed to be on Donald Trump and not that. Like everyone else is just going, yeah, but Trump. And I don't believe that any of that is true. I do believe that people are really paying attention to their pockets being picked here, especially in Chicago. I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe that any one of those people in Chicago are saying to themselves, yeah, but Trump. I don't believe that. I don't believe that stopping Trump is the necessary evil. Right? Like, let's focus on him while our average citizens are murdered in the streets. People are filming themselves at parks where kids are playing soccer or baseball or football, and they're ducking on the ground while kids are shooting wildly at each other through a park. It's like these kids went to the park to air out their grievances with loaded weapons. Like they said to themselves, where's a good place to have a rumble? I know, Sesame Street. Let's just fire randomly at a place where kids dwell. It's funny because I look at this and I draw the comparison earlier when I talked about those activists who were throwing stones and bricks at the ICE agents as they were driving kids out of slave labor, that they were throwing bricks at moving vehicles, putting the lives of the ICE agents and the children in danger. And then I look at the gang shootings in Chicago or Gary, Indiana, or Los Angeles, and I go, the people who are screaming, Donald Trump is a threat, an existential threat, while this is happening in their neighborhoods. And they don't see it. That these kids are seeing each other in the street and just pulling out the weapons and just firing while they recognize children are running and playing, living their lives. When everyone else is sitting there going, how could that possibly be? Because they don't care about who it affects. Neither do the people who are screaming and hollering at you that it's Trump and not the deadly shootings in the neighborhood. They don't care. It's a necessary evil for them. And the necessary evil is, you know what? In order to stay in power, it's okay for you to die. What good were you anyway? You don't vote. You don't show up. I don't know. I don't understand it. You have no capital. When we return, let me do this. We're going to do Hollywood news at the top of the hour. I'm going to tell a story I've told time and time again about a little street in Brooklyn. You don't want to miss it. It's a story about political weight. When we return, I'll actually find the story if I can. Let's get another check of weather and traffic with Bob Larson and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark, that one was god-awful. Right? Those are awful.
You didn't like
right?
those?
Yeah, don't like them at all. There are other variations, like The Rock did one for the very famous game Doom. Remember that?
Yep.
Yeah, so he did that. And some other ones. I think there's a TV show over the there's a TV show with the what's the guy for the Xbox game, Silo or whatever. I can't. Halo. That's the one. Yes. So when they come to the live action, they're touch and go. They're not always great. But this is a video game that's been around for a long time. A lot of men play, and I'm interested in your interest. According to Paramount Pictures, they've teamed up with Activision to develop a live-action film based on the blockbuster video game franchise Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, well, I would imagine. Because there are no Call of Duty doesn't have, like, main characters in them. So it's sort of like an ambiguous team, right? You can sort of invent whoever the heroes are or the antagonists in that Call of Duty mission, right?
Yeah.
So you don't really have what's the Metal Gear? You have did you ever play that?
Yeah, Snake.
Yeah, Snake. Yeah, was that Snake? Snake is the name, right? In Metal Gear. So you have like a hero, a protagonist, and an antagonist. But Call of Duty, I find that to be a little weird to do because
it's just a lot of kids teaming up against each other. And I got put on Call of Duty when I worked in a group home. We had a 15-year-old boy straight out of juvenile.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say his name.
Okay.
But he was ranked 15th in the world.
Wow.
On Call of Duty.
So
that was his calming thing. So we used to always just let him play, so he didn't, smash up the house.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah, he was ranked 15th in the world.
Here's a crazy statistic before we go to weather and traffic. This marks a major step for one of gaming's biggest series, which has sold over 500 million copies worldwide and has held the top selling spot in the U.S. for 16 straight years. Let's get to Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Does your son play Call of Duty, or have you?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So is that too violent of a video game to be in your house? Is that like because
I've never played video games.
Okay.
And I don't think he's really not a big video game either.
I got you. I know a lot of boys who are not.
Right.
Not big video game guys. Our boy is kind of like back and forth on it. But this Call of Duty thing, 16 years in the number one spot, sold 500 million copies, is finally being made. Yeah, finally being made into a movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it'll be a big deal for people who like the game. I think they'll go to the theaters to go watch it. Thank you, Mark.
No question about that. My son is a phone guy, so you'll see him on the phone.
Yeah, I can see that.
19, 20 hours a day.
There you go.
So there you go.
Oh, hold still. This is only going to hurt a little. It's Reese on the radio.
On NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
So I was talking about this before the break, or at the bottom of the hour, and I had to look it up because I wanted to know exactly when it happened. And I'll get to your comments inside the chat room in a minute about Hollywood news. I love the way you guys respond to that. And for me, I love that you love Hollywood news because I try to make it as informative and entertaining as possible. And I really, really like it. I'm dedicated to doing Hollywood news, even for that short little segment. So you guys responded, so I'm going to read your chat room comments about it. So as I was saying at the bottom of the hour, about political capital, about political power. I told this story since it happened in 2009. And what's that been? 14, almost 15 years now. And this story is real. You can look it up. It was during the Bloomberg era in New York City. Dateline 2009. It was Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And this particular part of South Williamsburg was dominated by the Hasidic ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. And in that community, the city had painted bike lanes along the road in this Hasidic community. And during the hot summer days, people would ride their bikes through there. It's Williamsburg. It's known as a very yuppie area, Williamsburg is. It's the outer boroughs, but it's right outside of Manhattan. And affluent, young, white, very kind of hippie culture folks are there, predominantly women, 20s, 30s. But when it's hot and you're riding your bicycle, usually women would be wearing athletic wear. 2009, through an ultra-Hasidic community, girls wearing, in their view, not mine, practically nothing. Here's the way it was described. The community was upset about bikes. The most notable incidents in 2009 where members of the Hasidic community successfully lobbied to remove a portion of the bike lane on Bedford Avenue, citing concerns over safety and religious hazards, specifically the influx of scantily clad cyclists, often described as hipsters, passing through the neighborhood, which they argued violated community modesty standards. This community was upset. This small road of Hasidic Jews were concerned about children, their children, viewing these hipsters riding bicycles through their community barely dressed. What made this story so big in New York was that the city and Mayor Bloomberg showed up and power washed the bike lanes away. They were gone. That was the political clout of that community. Bloomberg was forced to remove the bike lanes. And the people in the community who liked the bike lanes fought back. They made a big issue of it. How in the hell are you going to get rid? I mean, literally, they were fighting a religious community over bike lanes. And they wouldn't budge, and neither would Bloomberg. Bloomberg sided with the community. Why? Because of votes. Why else, silly? They had more power than the hipsters. What were the hipsters going to do? You think the hipsters were going to show up and vote en masse? No. They had no interest in the voting system. They had no interest in that. Those people don't show up to vote. They think the whole thing's rigged. But that community, they spoke up. The religious leaders, the rabbis, the cantors. Oh, they told Bloomberg what for. Oh, yeah, you come down here right now and you remove these bike lanes. And sure enough, it didn't take a week. The Department of Transportation was out there getting rid of all of them. So I say that as a point of this whole immigration issue in Connecticut. These people, if you are under the impression that they're fighting for Hispanic Latinos in the state of Connecticut because they're the kindest people in the world and they care and don't think they're getting something out of it, it's the Democrat Party. They've always used their voters. Always. And I challenge anybody, anyone, to tell me a moment where they didn't. I mean, do we have to go back to LBJ? Do we have to go back to LBJ? We're going to pass that bill, N-word bill, and they'll be voting for us for the next 200 years, even though his party was against it, filibustered it for 75 days. One of the people filibustering was a former Grand Kleagle of the Ku Klux Klan in Robert C. Byrd, senior senator of West Virginia. I mean, God, this got all the making. Make a movie about that guy. Yeah, absolutely. He told his own party, we don't care about them. It was also the same guy that said we got to give them a little bit of power to make them feel important. But as soon as they start getting ahead of themselves, we start calling them uppity Negroes. Come on. It's the Democrat Party, ladies and gentlemen. They are who we thought they were. They always have been. They always love this idea that they're moral and just. You know, sit up here and tell me that they would actually, think about it. Think about it on this level. Let's say that in reality, this was a political loser for Democrats, and they knew it. The polling data said to them, yeah, on this one, you guys need to take a beat. Why wouldn't they? Why would they stay on board? Why wouldn't they say, yeah, we know that it's against the people and the people don't want it, but you know what? We really, really do believe this is morally right. Would they? No, that's never the case. Never the case. Let's go one step further. You want to know what motivates these folks? I'll tell you. Here's David Hogg a week from last Sunday, talking about Hakeem Jeffries and why he won't back Zoran Mamdani.
Here, though, let's listen to Representative Hakeem Jeffries this morning and how tongue-twisted he is when it's talking about NYC mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani.
I don't think we've withheld an endorsement. We are engaging in a conversation about the future of New York City, about the issues that need to be addressed, particularly the housing crisis. These are all issues to be worked through, and we'll continue to work through them. As I mentioned, we're sitting down next week.
The American people are craving, and Democrats too, are craving clear answers from their politicians, not essays of, there's all this parliament. Just give us a damn answer.
Why do you think he doesn't answer that question, David? Give it to us straight. Why does he not answer that question? It's not because of apartments and socialism and that fear. Why does he not want to answer that question as simply as you just outlined?
Well, I think there's a room for a longer conversation about that, but ultimately I think a major part of it has to do with serious disagreements that he has with him over Israel-Palestine at the end of the day. I think that is probably the biggest part of it, if I had to make a guess, because groups in this town, I'll tell you right now, what a lot of people will not tell viewers on this channel that I'm not afraid to say is in conversations about congressional races, you know what the three most common questions that I hear are when people talk about who to support in a race? It is what is AIPAC doing? What is crypto doing? And what was their last quarter's fundraising? That is 90% of the conversations that are happening in this town. And people like Hakeem Jeffries are terrified to talk about that because they are afraid of a lot of those groups because they have tons of money.
Again, do you really think that it's anything about them is about moral standing? No. Let's go one step further. Charlemagne the God. That's what he calls himself. We have other names for him. But he was on the Breakfast Club talking about Hakeem Jeffries. There you heard David Hogg saying that Hakeem Jeffries is ruled by AIPAC. Okay. Charlemagne.
I love having the minority speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. Because, I'm a political nerd. I love talking
Charlemagne
politics.
hates him.
You do?
I don't hate him. I just don't think he stands for anything.
Well,
I think that I call him AIPAC Shakur.
He definitely
calls him AIPAC Shakur. Let's go one step further. Everybody remember Fire Marshal Bowman? How about Cori Bush? Both of them no longer in Congress. Why? They'll tell you.
I got a message from someone in the community. AIPAC said to tell you that they know you're not going to change your stance. They just want you to be silent.
They are very strategic and very unapologetic. Any bill that supports Israel unequivocally, they vote on that. Even if it's a bill that completely marginalizes and dehumanizes Palestinians, when we talk about the corruption of our politics and of our government, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Again, don't take my word. I don't want anybody screaming and hollering that I'm being anti-Semitic. That's the Democrat Party. Okay? ADL, your folks, your people. Those are the ones who are out there. They're the ones spreading that stuff. Just so you know, don't make it about me. Don't make it about me. I try to explain this all the time. Nothing about these folks are genuine. Look, and I know, and first of all, every one of those people on there, David Hogg, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, animals. That is the way I look. Animals, absolute animals. I don't see them as human beings. They're the dredges of the earth. But that's the Democrat Party for you right there. That's progressivism right there. All three of those people are reprehensible. They will stand on the dead bodies of anybody they can take advantage of. And there they are telling you the truth about who they are as a party. They are guided by no principles. How can they have any? How can they have any? They know what motivates them. People they can use. And I'm sorry, Connecticut, it's not blacks anymore. Huh? 495 days, no racial incidents reported, no nooses, no N-words flown, huh? Nobody's writing racial graffiti or questionable nooses hanging anywhere. Blacks are doing great. Nobody. They had to go to a story 7 years old. And even that, William Tong doesn't care about. We have a black man dead at the hands of corrections officers, and he's fighting these black families. Now you know where the priorities are. Just saying.
Download the free Odyssey app, search WTIC News Talk 1080, and tap earlier today to get started.
All right, we're back. Reese on the radio. What had happened was we talked about the Democrats' new policy of now trying to keep children away from their parents. We also talked about we're going to have Moms of Liberty's Alexandra Bauer on tomorrow at 4 p.m. Also talked about the very weird story of the amount of African Americans versus Hispanic Latinos that are in the state of Connecticut and the dwindling number of African Americans in a 3-year span of 2020 to 2023. And according to the data, they lost some, I'll read it to you. It's absolutely incredible. The growth in census estimates in Connecticut, Hispanic Latinos grew from 623,293 to approximately 641,000, a growth rate of 2.9%. Where Black and African Americans decreased slightly, approximately 361,000 to 355,000, which is a growth rate of minus 1.7. So that we talked about as well. We got Hollywood news. Call of Duty is coming to film, which is exciting. Speaking of which, let's go to the chat rooms on that. Some of the people who had to say something about it. Bushwhacker says, I used to play Call of Duty. He says, you can make a movie off of Splinter Cell 2, Matty O says. I guess you could. I don't know that game that much as well. Also in the chat room, Michael A. says he loved the movie Resident Evil. I'm assuming that is the movie with the girl from Fifth Element. Is that I always forget her name, but I remember her husband who directed the Fifth Element, Luc Besson. He's also the director of one of my favorite movies and many others, The Professional, also known as Leon. It was a great movie.
Was that with Sylvester Stallone?
Which one? Oh, the professional? No, that was the assassin.
Okay, that was the assassin with the beard.
Yeah. Was that? Did he have a beard in that?
Did he have a beard?
I don't think he had a beard in that. Assassin, where his nemesis was played by Antonio Banderas. They were both.
Oh yeah. The
professional was with can't remember the actor's name, but the character's name was Leon, and it was one of the earlier roles of Natalie Portman, who was the next door neighbor, and Gary Oldman played the police officer, the rogue police officer, trying to eliminate him, for lack of a better word. And it was sort of like this dynamic of where Leon's character had to play father figure to the orphaned Natalie Portman, who wanted to become an assassin like him, so she could take out the people who had killed her parents, and more so her little brother, because she hated everybody else in her family. But that was a big movie back in the days. Also, it's got some other problems, but it was a good movie just for the what's his name, Gary Oldman role in that film was classic. I think Gary Oldman's character in The Professional and his character in True Romance are two of my favorite performances by Gary Oldman, with a host of others. Anyway, let's get to weather and traffic with Bob Larson and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. You had to at least seen one of those movies. The Professional, if you haven't seen that, Mark, you have to see that at least.
The Professional.
Yeah, it's with Danny Aiello, Natalie Portman, and I don't know who the actor is who played Leon the assassin in the film, but his name escapes me. But he's done other films since then. But it was a classic. God, it's such a great movie. It's very violent, but it's a great movie. No, that doesn't ring a bell, right? It's okay.
No.
It's all right.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, right, dude? Jean Reno?
Yes, Jean Reno. Yes, Jean Reno.
Jean Reno.
Yes, that is the French actor who played Leon. He's supposed to be playing an Italian in that movie with Natalie Portman.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is.
You know who it is.
You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
I like to begin the ending of this show by chastising my trolls. Where are you? Are you still on vacation? Get your butts back here to this program immediately. We know you're there. We know that you come up here every day from 2 to 6, and you show up here like clockwork. Where were you today? Did you take an extra day off? You had a 3-day weekend, slacker? Get your butt back to this program, okay? As I try to explain to people every day, I love a hater. I live for them. They motivate me. And when you're not here, I'm not as motivated, okay? Get your butts back on your job, okay? Weekend's over. We don't get another holiday until when? Was it Thanksgiving? Is there another holiday coming up? Nothing. And I don't count Halloween, by the way. I don't care how many of you people dress up. It's not a holiday, not a real one. Okay? We're going to have another holiday until Thanksgiving, so get on your jobs. By the way, I understand that Pritzker, who was talking a lot of tough talk over the weekend, is not sounding so tough. Donald Trump was Columbus Day. I forgot all about that, Zach. Thank you. Columbus Day. Sorry. My apologies. Not a real holiday. To some. Maybe people in the Italian community. But it's a day off. It's a weird day. Okay? Anyway. Governor Pritzker, back to him, of Illinois. Donald Trump said today during his press conference about Rocket City that to tell people of Illinois, we're coming. The federal government is coming. Pritzker gave a press conference talking about that.
As I have done since becoming governor, I've been reflecting on my responsibilities to the people of Illinois. And one of those duties is to share with the public exactly what we know. In the coming days, we expect to see what has played out in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., to happen here in Chicago. First, Donald Trump is positioning armed federal agents and staging military vehicles on federal property, such as the Great Lakes Naval Base. It is likely those agents will be with ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, the Department of Homeland Security, and other similarly situated federal agencies. Many of these individuals are being relocated from Los Angeles for deployment in Chicago. We believe that staging that has already begun started yesterday and continues into today.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You told everybody that you had a plan. You told everybody that they're not coming. You told everybody in Chicago, don't worry about it. We got this. What happened with all the rallying? Huh? And you got old Bozo Johnson next to you, sitting at 26% approval rating. How he got up from 7, I'll never know. By the way, somebody needs to find out whether or not someone's fudging the numbers. That guy had a 7. A 7. It's a black man in a black city. He had a 7% approval rating. Now he's sitting at 26. It's like when somebody heard that Gary Coleman got robbed for $50, and the obvious question was, where the hell did Gary Coleman get $50? Anyway, I digress. More J.B. Pritzker.
Second, unidentifiable agents in unmarked vehicles with masks are planning to raid Latino communities and say they're targeting violent criminals.
Because they may be violent criminals.
As we saw in Los Angeles, a very, very small percentage of the individuals they will target will be violent criminals.
So you're saying that you have violent criminals? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying that they're going to come in and grab violent criminals, but they're only going to grab a small number of violent criminals, which would be an admission that you are harboring violent criminals. Only bozos didn't see that one.
Instead, you're likely to see videos of them hauling away mothers and fathers, traveling to work or picking up their kids from school.
Who definitely are not criminals because they will be mothers and fathers traveling with their children off to school. Like, that is how you no longer become a criminal. So if we just had crackheads who were mothers and fathers who were dropping their kids off at school, those folks would be deemed as innocent bystanders, right? If we had drug dealers and pimps and hustlers, if we had them dropping kids off at school just saying, I'm a mother, I'm a father, then those people would be innocent just because they have the label of mother and father. This from a group of people who can't define what a mother and father is. Okay, anyway.
Sometimes they will detain, handcuff, and haul away children.
Do they now? Now, if you mean children by 16 and 17-year-old gangbangers, yeah, I got no problem with that.
They are law-abiding individuals.
Why? You don't even know who they are. If we were to ask them who these people are, who is illegal in your state, J.B. Pritzker, you wouldn't know because you don't ask. But you seem to be very confident that they are law-abiding. Can't tell you who they are, but I know they're good.
Who pay taxes.
I'm not even going to revisit that nonsense.
And contribute to the communities who feel safe going to work and attending mandatory immigration check-ins.
So you're telling me that the people of Chicago feel safe because of their immigrant communities. So we were to ask them, hey, do you feel safe knowing that your communities are overrun by immigrants? I guess people would just say, yeah, man, if those illegals weren't here, I'd feel a little uneasy.
In other words, they're following the law.
Because I say so.
We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to...
Oh, there it is. It's not Donald Trump. Stephen Miller's in charge.
Come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year. It breaks my heart to report that we have been told ICE will try and disrupt community picnics and peaceful parades.
Yes, that's what they'll be doing. They'll be coming out to peaceful picnics and parades and just grabbing people off the street. I wouldn't worry about it. Here's what I would do. I would tell everybody stay home. I would tell everybody don't go anywhere. Hide in your homes. Hide. If you don't have a home, find somebody who will, hide you in their homes. You're all Anne Frank now, according to J.B. Pritzker. All of you are.
Let's be clear. The terror and cruelty is the point, not the safety of anyone living here.
That's my favorite part. It's cruel. It's cruel. No conversation about the law. None. Doesn't even consider it. He has decided on his own without knowledge, and that is a fact. Without knowledge, and ask any one of these guys who are over here pontificating about illegals in the state, even in John Larson's office, which, by the way, we hear they're listening. Yeah, baby. Thank you for listening. John Larson's office, thank you for listening. Make sure you tune in here every 2 to 6 from Monday through Friday. Okay? Don't know any of these souls. Don't know one of them. But they can tell you everything about them. They're good. They're law-abiding. They pay their taxes. They're taking their kids to school. Who are they? Well, we don't ask. Well, how do you know that they're good? Because they are. Because we say so. We say they're good. That's why they're here. How did they get here? We don't know. Where do they live? We're not sure. How many kids they have? I don't know. But they're good? Absolutely. Come on. Come on, John Larson's office. Square the circle. Please stop being bozos. Just please stop. Stop standing around acting like you're holier than thou and answer the simple question. If you don't know who they are, why do you keep telling us that you know who they are and what they're capable of and what their potential is? You don't know a soul. You just know that they're illegal. Oh, I'm sorry, undocumented.
Third, as lawful citizens, exercise their...
Oh, whoa, buddy. Lawful? How are they lawful? Again, is he an idiot? Do you think that you're just going to keep repeating lawful, that all of a sudden people are just going to be like, I think they're lawful?
First Amendment rights. Trump and his team will be looking for any excuse to put active duty military on our streets, supposedly to protect ICE. We have reason to believe that the Trump administration has already begun staging the Texas National Guard for deployment in Illinois. I want to be very clear on this point.
Can't wait. What do you think he's going to say? Why not? Why wait?
And I want to speak directly to the press right now. We know before anything has happened here that the Trump plan is to use any excuse to deploy armed military personnel to Chicago. If someone flings a sandwich at an ICE agent, Trump will try and go on TV and declare an emergency in Chicago. I'm imploring everyone, if and when that happens, do not take the bait. Lastly, after about 30 days or so, we believe that they will pick up all of those resources that they send here to Chicago and send them to the next city in a blue state.
Who's next? Who's on the National Guard sweepstakes next? Will it be Connecticut? Could it be Atlanta, Georgia? I don't know.
Ignoring cities in red states with higher violent crime rates than we have.
There is no such thing as a red state violent. It is a red state city run by Democrat mayors. We did the numbers. We'll do them again if you need.
None of this is about fighting crime or making Chicago safer.
We can kind of say the same thing about you there, buddy. It never is about that. You guys have no interest in crime. Again, this is the pickpocket holding press conferences about Donald Trump, but nothing about the 50-plus people who were shot or the 7 people who died. No interest at all. No press conference. No mourning for the families. No one showing up to the communities where lives were lost at all. Focusing squarely on the Trump administration, making it about that. And I guess those families just have to eat those bullets. Sorry. Sounds crass, but that's the way it is. On tomorrow's program, again, we will have from Moms of Liberty, Alexandra Bauer is going to be joining us at 4 o'clock, so stay tuned for that. We'll talk to her about what she's doing and how she's helping moms across the state, Connecticut that is, helping those moms fight back against woke politics and woke indoctrination in the schools. We'll talk to her about that and so much more, and about the Girl Scouts and everything else that she's been fighting for. So stand by for that. We'll keep a close eye on what's going on in Chicago and, of course, what's happening in Connecticut. When it comes to ICE, it's a fight to the finish. You can damn well bet it's going to get hairier as we go on. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good night. Pleasant tomorrow. We'll see you back here at 2 p.m. mañana. Bob Larson, he's in the Weather Center, and Mark Christopher, he's in the BPS Traffic Center. Good night, sir.
Thank you, Reese. Good night to you. If you're Southland 91, just look out for a problem on the right shoulder in Windsor by exit.
All right, good sir.
All right, manana,
just a little bit of a slowdown with that. Windsor.
Already hump day, huh? Damn.
I hate
being
these
again down by
holidays.
28. The Windsor, Westburn 84.
All right.
Yes, Zach, I'm going to it now while I'm getting ready to upload the show onto the podcast. Thank you for that. I did see that the alert came over. All right. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. And slow Tuesday. I usually like it to be much more festive on this day. You guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you manana. Be good to each other.